Hi everyone, welcome to another Let's Get Mental podcast by the Young Advisors. Today I'm joined by Jack,
Hiya.
Bryony,
Hiya.
and Archie,
Hello.
and we'll be discussing advertising on social media and the effects on mental health. So, the kind of social media platforms that we'll be discussing today will be Instagram, Facebook, Snapchat, and TikTok, but also talking about Google and that kind of thing. So, what mental health illnesses in particular we are going to be talking about will be eating disorders, mainly anorexia, bulimia, binge eating, other specified feeding or eating disorder, and AFRID, as well as depression, anxiety, body dysmorphia, and low self-esteem. So this is a topic that I'm really passionate about as someone who has suffered with anorexia when I was younger. This is such an important topic to be discussed, and because I don't think people actually realize the impacts that it has on mental health. It goes so unnoticed and people don't actually realize what they're consuming on social media. So when we talk about advertising on social media, we're talking about, products that come up on our pages, on our feeds, designed to sell stuff to us, essentially. So advertising is used on social media platforms to make money. The advertisers pay the platforms to show their ads, so they reach us. And pretty much if something's being advertised to us, it's something that we've already been looking at. So there's a lot of personalised ads, so we're more likely to buy a product. So starting off on the discussion, I'm going to ask Jack first off. Have you ever seen any ads targeted to you on your social media? And if you have, what kind of platform have you seen this before?
Oh, definitely. Especially like most notably for me, like across Facebook and Instagram. Although I have, of course, seen adverts on Snapchat and TikTok as well. But the difference between them, I'd say, is the adverts that I've seen on Facebook and Instagram, at least in my case, have actually been quite personal and like definitely more kind of like tailored to me than the ones I've seen on Snapchat and on TikTok. And it's really made me think. It's really like kind of like made me think. Wow, like how do they get this kind of information? Really, like it's crazy how they manage to like kind of like track the things that you like, and it makes you wonder like kind of like what these cookies can actually do that they use in their adverts.
Yeah, definitely. Like it's the same for me as well. Facebook is a really big one. Something that you've been searching about 5 minutes ago can come up on your feed, and whether that's done on purpose or not, it's crazy. Bryony, what about you?
Yeah, I was just gonna talk about the searching something and then it coming up. I remember, I think it was actually, I didn't even search it on Google. I was on sort of like New Look or somewhere like that, and I'd just recently saved like a pair of boots to my wish list. I was like, oh, I like those. Let's put them in my wish list. And then I think literally like 10 minutes later, I was scrolling down my Instagram, and there was those very same boots on one of the personalized ads, and I was like, that's bit of a coincidence. So it really does make you, when things like that catch you out and you're like, oh, okay, that's a bit scary. But I think a lot of the time we don't even think about it. We don't think about what we're sharing or searching or typing. And even though it's on like private accounts where they're password protected, um, we still kind of we're still sharing that information. And I know a lot of us on websites, when that little box at the bottom pops up and says allow cookies or whatever, we all just click it to get it out of the way, and we don't actually think about what impact that is having on everything that we're consuming. So I think this is a really interesting topic to discuss.
Yeah, definitely. I was gonna just add on there as well. I think we're all guilty for just quickly clicking accept on the cookies button. Just to sometimes it takes up the whole page. You can't even look at what you want to look at unless you clicked accept, or you've got to go through a whole load of tick boxes to edit what your preferences are, you know, if you don't. So, you know, by kind of blocking the way we access things and kind of forcing us to click accept or go through a long list, it kind of forces us to share that information. So Archie, what do you think about this?
So, I mean, for cookies, obviously, I've noticed that obviously quite recently, obviously there's like they have to put a disclaimer, and like usually they give you the option now to turn off or set your preferences for their cookies. So usually now you can actually go like, because the thing is they don't actually say like, it usually have the option okay and manage. And I found if you actually go into manage, you can usually turn off and ensure that they can't, you know, basically access anything like, you know, information wise. But I've also found that, like, yeah, without a doubt, when it comes to advertisement, I've had it all the time, like I say, the usual platforms like Facebook and Instagram. But what I find weird is when it's the people closest to me or people close to me that I start getting things that they're interested in. For example, my brother, who was getting quite interested in a lot of spiritual stuff, and I think he was telling me about a show called Gaia, or sort of some stuff on there he was watching. And for, you know, the very next day, I started getting advertisements for this show on my feeds, and I'm just like, even though I've never searched it, I've never looked into it, but obviously because I'm like his brother on Facebook, they sort of see that way of connecting these sort of platforms together. But also the other one that I found was very weird, and this isn't so much advertisements, it's more just sort of like I followed somebody on Instagram who someone recommended to me to follow, and it was the next day I went onto YouTube, and even though I'd never searched this person on YouTube, he came up in my recommended. So I find it very interesting how it's obviously all interlinked, and I think a lot of it can be to do with the email obviously you're using. I think that's a way they sort of see what platforms you're using.
Yeah, definitely. The way it all links, I think, is across a wide number of platforms. You know, it's crazy how, you know, we don't always realize that this is happening. So, you know, the more our data is recorded online, the more we search for things on Facebook or on Google, the more personalized these ads become. They become more targeted towards us. You know, Google probably knows us better than we know ourselves. It knows what to recommend before we even know that we want it, kind of thing. You know, it's crazy. You know, we are more likely to purchase a product from an ad if we've been recently searching about a product similar, or a product that's, you know, maybe cheaper on a different website. So I know I was searching for a particular type of bag that I wanted, and on Facebook it came up that this bag on a different website was nearly half the price. And I think, oh, like, that's great. I'll click on the ad and see, you know, what the website says about it. And once I've gone through all, add to my bag, pay in, it says that, you know, this is actually a Chinese website, and I think it was actually fake. But because I'd clicked on the ad, that meant that, you know, I got so many more adverts of this one bag that, you know, I kind of went off in the end. I didn't really want it. But yet my Facebook feed was still full of the same ads. And, you know, it kind of put me off clicking on them, because I think, you know, if they're going to be offering stuff that's half the price when it's not even real, you know, it kind of puts a doubt in your mind. So, Jack, have you ever bought a product through an ad on social media? And if you have been clicking on ads for stuff that you're interested in, do more ads relating to this appear on your feed?
Definitely. Recently, at least, I've bought 2 products off ads from social media. The first one was this kind of like quite pricey jacket, I suppose, that I got from like overseas, and I kind of like didn't trust it at first. So like I was kind of like I went to look at the reviews on the website, and they seemed genuine, so I actually got it, and yeah, I was actually quite impressed, surprisingly, with what I received. So I decided it was worth it. And then after that, the second product that I kind of like ordered through an ad that I saw on social media was on Facebook from Boohoo, and it was a Christmas jumper, which I actually got a couple of days ago. And I really like that as well. I thought it looked quite funky, quite festive, quite stylish based on the picture. And it was the same product that I got when I received it. So I was kind of like very glad that it wasn't a scam or anything. I think it's important to kind of like be wary that, especially like on some kind of like websites, such as Wish in particular, I've heard that Wish are quite bad for that, for kind of like giving products that don't live up to kind of like what you expect. But yeah, I guess that I was lucky because I know that a lot of people haven't been as fortunate. And ironically, in my situation, the only time I've ordered something which actually hasn't kind of like provided me with the products that I ordered was actually through a trusted website. Like it was actually through Amazon rather than an advert. So that's it's put quite a spin on things, really. It's quite surprising.
Yeah, definitely. I think it's so common nowadays for people to have a kind of distrust in what they're buying. You know, like I always read reviews about a product if I'm going to buy it, which is something I didn't really do before. I think, you know, the way products are advertised can almost be misleading in many ways. And, you know, sometimes you don't even know what you're going to get. So, Bri, what's your opinion on this?
So I've actually, again, recently only I think it was the first time I've ever bought anything off an ad. I don't know if it was a personalised ad or just an ad. And it was a Christmas present, so I'm not going to disclose what it was. But it was an item of clothing, and it was actually from a really small independent company. And I'd say that's possibly one of the benefits of like personalized ads and ads like that, because for smaller businesses and smaller independent kind of Instagram pages that sell things or like make crafts and sell stuff like that, then I think it can be really useful, especially personalized ads, because if they're really targeting their advertising to people who are really going to be interested in their products, I think it can make a huge difference to their little business and really increase their reach. But it's when sort of those personalized ads and those ads on Instagram and Facebook and things aren't necessarily vetted, like you mentioned, Abby, that some of the websites are fake, or they're not ones that probably should be advertised. Like I've seen some really weird things advertised on mine, and I'm like, that's probably not appropriate to just be scrolling down my feed at 11 o'clock in the morning seeing like weird. I think Wish comes up with some really weird recommendations of stuff, and I'm like, I have no idea what that is. But, so I think sometimes it can be really useful for, like I say, like small independent businesses, but for other ones it can be a massive way, especially big corporations where they're just storing all your data to basically sell you their stuff. It can be a bit scary, I think.
Yeah, definitely. I think obviously, you know, it's not all bad, it's not all doom and gloom, especially, you know, when, like you said, promoting products that are from smaller independent businesses, you know, that's their way of obviously promoting their product. But obviously it's about the type of product as well that's being promoted, and, you know, the kind of audience that's reaching based on the data that we're giving out. So Archie, what do you think about this?
Well, yeah, I obviously have to agree with Brian and Jack on the whole Wish thing. Obviously, you know, basically that is your, I mean, as I say, the sort of meme is that you get, you know, you get a Wish version of something. It's basically terrible. And like, as I say, like Wish is, well, as I say, it's just from a Chinese company, isn't it? Or somewhere in China that, you know, sends these. I mean, some things from there can be really good, but in terms of me actually buying advertisements, the thing is, if I usually see something advertised to me on social media, and I have bought things before that I've seen on advertisements, but my first go-to is literally just what's it called and go to Amazon. Like I will very rarely ever sort of go on a third-party website or something that's trying to sell me something, just because I don't know what the policies are of that particular company or their website, because a lot of these places have you know shipping fees that you don't realize, and also what's the other thing? Like, what their return policies are, and obviously something like Amazon that I've used quite I've sort of used it regularly when I want to order parcels. I know it's a trusted website. I know it's obviously going to, when it comes to refunds and that sort of stuff and shipping, it's not going to be, they give you what the actual price is for something. So I say most of the time I'm usually going to Amazon if I do see something, but also like Bryce said, sometimes you do get these little things that do come up and you're just like, oh, that isn't on Amazon. I'll have a look at that and, go a little bit deeper into what this product is and actually look at the reviews of it and stuff like that. And sometimes I may actually buy a product through a advertisement, but I find I'm very rarely ever doing it unless it's something that's quite unique or something that I can't get from one of these big retailers.
Yeah, definitely. I'm the same, and I'm sure everyone else is. It's just obviously double checking that what you're buying is what you want. Basically, you're getting what you paid for. So moving on from this, so social media is run by algorithms, and this creates almost a completely individualized social media feed. So you may notice that someone that you're really close to, maybe a close friend or a partner, you follow nearly all the same people, yet your feeds look completely different. And I know, for example, like for myself, me and my boyfriend, we know pretty much all the same people, yet because he is always looking at cars, his social media feed is always recommending cars, showing cars for sale in the local area, recommending, new YouTubers that talk about cars and all that kind of thing. Whereas my feed looks completely different. And that's just the way that the algorithms work to obviously show you what you're interested in, which can be good and it can make social media really enjoyable. But on the other hand, it can really damage people's mental health. So I was just going to ask everyone, does anyone else have anything to add on that?
Yes, actually. On that note that you said that it can also be damaging to your mental health, I must agree there, because even though it can show you things that you're interested in, I found it can actually also kind of like at times even show your triggers and things that you're insecure about, because like say like maybe you've liked something like because you thought it would be effective. So like for me, I remember I was once quite insecure about my teeth, and like I thought like they were quite yellow at the time, and like it was always like a little insecurity of mine back in the day. And I ever since, like I kind of got all these adverts about like teeth whitening kits, and like it would just kind of like be like a little like dig in the side about that insecurity. And even though now I haven't got really as yellow teeth as I did, like it's still like I still get those adverts, and it's just even when you try to hide them, or when you say like, because there is an option sometimes to kind of like not see that kind of thing, like not see adverts like that, like I'll still get them through from time to time, even though it isn't a point of say interest anymore, as they aim to be.
Yeah, definitely. I think that's a really good point. And it opens well onto the next couple of points that we're going to go on to. But, social media using these adverts to kind of promote beauty enhancing products, they're promising, perfect teeth or perfect body. And it's unachievable, on the adverts that of teeth whitening, like you said, the teeth that are on the picture in the advert are probably photoshopped to be absolutely crystal white, and they don't tell you that having absolutely perfect white teeth is actually quite unhealthy. Your teeth are actually supposed to be a kind of off-white yellowy color. So that point links on to what I was going to say about, especially when you link social media accounts with the same email, so they kind of have a really wide breadth of all your data. So if a vulnerable person, for example, someone with low self-esteem or an eating disorder, you know, they begin to search different diets or beauty enhancing products like teeth whitening kits on Google, the ads that are going to then start appearing on their Facebook and their Instagram feed are going to then be catered towards these insecurities. And like Jack said, it is triggering and it is a dig in your side to constantly see that on your social media feed. So talking about this, how do you think this can affect people's self-esteem? And have you ever been affected by this personally? I'll go to Jack first for this.
Yeah, it can definitely affect your self-esteem. Like for me, it kind of like made me kind of like, not only did I see these adverts more, but I also started to kind of like see, because on Instagram, like you have suggested accounts, and as I like scrolled down, like I actually saw kind of like more influencers like with crystal white teeth, perfect teeth, like completely like straight and crystal white, as you said. And I felt that was also tailored, and it definitely affected my esteem. It made me think, like, kind of like, are most people's teeth like this? Like, because it kind of distorted my view of reality by seeing this, and by having this constantly put in my face, it kind of made me think, oh, everyone's teeth must be like this, and it made me kind of like think in like that kind of like self-destructive way, and think, oh, you need to get yours sorted out, kind of thing, because obviously it's not normal if your teeth aren't crystal white. And looking back on that, it was obviously a very destructive kind of like thought pattern and very unrealistic, but that's what adverts can potentially do and affect you in that way.
Yeah, definitely. That must have been so hard for you. I know, just to pick out one particular flaw that you have and then beat yourself up about it, that it can be so hard to come through, and I'm really glad that you've come past that. Bri, what have you had any experiences with this?
Yeah, so I actually did used to suffer with an eating disorder when I was younger, and I've had kind of a bit of a weird, unhealthy, toxic relationship with food for like pretty much most of my teen years. But I'm a lot better with it now, especially with like exercise and things. I used to have a bit of a toxic relationship with it, but now I'm into running, and that's really great. So, you know, I'm Googling some like buying some new running shoes or some new running socks or stuff like that. And that's really great seeing adverts sometimes when I want to see it, because it's like a moment in time on a good day and I'm looking at stuff to do with exercise, and that's great because I'm choosing to look at it on those days. But it's those other days where I still have quite a few, you know, one-off days every now and then where I get into my head about everything, and sometimes I just need time to kind of just not think about exercise, not think about stuff like that, but still there's personalized targeted ads, and my Instagram feed and everything will be arranged around that. So going on to social media is really, really toxic, but I can't stop myself from doing it because it's kind of almost second nature now. And I'll start seeing all this stuff about like running and things like that, which I'm not saying is necessarily a bad thing, but on certain days it can really make me think, oh, like, why am I not, I haven't done any exercise today, oh my god, what am I doing? Or because I've searched something slightly health related, I then get all the sort of like detox teas, all the crazy like injections that apparently make you lose however much. Or on Instagram, you know, you have like your explore page. I get loads of really bad accounts that recommend really crazy diets, and they all come up, and it's just a lot of things that, because I've searched something on one day because I want to search it and I'm in the right mind frame to search it and I want to look into it, they take that and then apply it to your life every single day, even when sometimes it's not as healthy for you to see it on an off day or on a day where you've just pigged out on a Chinese. I don't want to be seeing stuff about running because in my head that doesn't do well for me. But these personalized ads, they don't understand your personal situation and everything like that, so they're not going to be able to know when to tell you, when to give you these personalized ads and when not to. And they can be just really damaging on the times where you don't need to be seeing things like that.
Yeah, definitely. I completely agree with everything you've said there. And I know how hard suffering with an eating disorder can be. And, when you're in that mindset, you can search some really like unhealthy things, trying to find out more about calories, find out more about diets. And then, that data stays on your kind of social media. And like you said, you're choosing when and where to research stuff like running shoes. And the fact that then it can come up so many times repeatedly, day after day, showing you stuff about exercise, and it can be triggering. And like you said, if you've just eaten a Chinese and you're seeing stuff about exercise on your social media, someone with an eating disorder, that can make you feel so guilty for not exercising. I know how destructive that can be personally. Archie, do you have anything else to add?
Oh yeah, loads. I mean, I think obviously a lot of this comes back down to education, because obviously when it comes to online and obviously nutrition and these sort of things, and like you're not taught about what advertisements are. You're not taught that there are fake ones out there. And when it comes obviously to eating disorders, you're not really taught in school about what's healthy to eat and and what's real and what's fake. And obviously for someone like me, I've been kind of privileged in the fact that obviously my parents are both GPs, so obviously when it comes to these sort of things, you can get through a lot of the crap that obviously comes up on these sort of situations. But you are going to obviously get these things that come up in your advertisement feeds, especially when it comes to eating disorders, like searching up about calories and how do I lose fat and stuff like that. And obviously there's a lot there, but I mean, and the problem is that it goes even further than that. You have people that literally will try and get money out of you. Like, I mean, there's this one guy that I see on my feed all the time, and I know it's it's not true. He's got there like with his abs. He's like, oh, you need to do this if you want to get this and stuff like that. And I'm just like, yeah, like because the thing is, I've done these courses in a level 2 and level 3 in terms of personal training, and they teach you all about this sort of stuff about nutrition and obviously about how to lose weight and how to the difference between weight and fat, and obviously what the difference about your calories and stuff like that and your macros. And it's a lot to take in, but obviously it helps when it comes to these advertisements, because I can sort of see what's real and what's obviously fake, and most of the time there's no magical way to lose fat or weight. I mean, it's actually very simple when it really comes down to it. It's obviously just doing exercise and eating healthy. There's no sort of ab simulator that gives you a six-pack. There's no sort of fat freezer that's going to melt the fat off you. That's not how that sort of system works. So, and obviously the thing is, these businesses, these people, they know that these people aren't educated on these things. So when people search up these things, they know that, oh, these people don't actually know a lot about nutrition and stuff like that. So that's how they try and sell these products to you, because they see you as victims, and they see you as opportunities to sell you these bad products that aren't going to do anything good for you, and once again hurt your self-esteem.
Yeah, definitely. I think it is a complete exploitation for our money, especially of the most vulnerable people who, they struggle with self-esteem and body dysmorphia and eating disorders. That can really, really destroy a person's self-worth. And I think on social media as well, especially when you're seeing influencers that you may follow or like, people on YouTube promoting these products, and you can see them and their perfect life with the perfect body, and you think, oh well, if I consume this product, I'm gonna look like them. And in all of the cases, I was going to say in most cases, but I know in all of the cases that is not going to happen, because everyone is so individual. And especially when influencers, they show their shiny teeth and their flat stomachs, but most of the time it's photoshopped, or it's plastic surgery. And I think exploiting people who have low self-esteem to try and make them consume a product is so unethical.
Sorry, it's okay if I just say, like, the thing is, a lot when it comes to these products, like, especially when it comes to eating disorders and weight loss and that thing, it's such a grey area, because like when I was doing my courses, I was taught that when it comes to actually giving advice, you don't have to legally be a personal trainer. Anybody on earth can say they're a personal trainer. You know, even if you have the qualifications, anybody can say they're an expert at losing weight or fat. There is no sort of like title that, you know, you can say you're a personal trainer. When it comes to nutrition, if you actually are teaching somebody, you know how to get fit or, you know, lose weight or whatever it might be, you actually have to say that you're not a trained nutritionist. And you're allowed to give advice, but you're not allowed to write diet plans and stuff like that. So that's obviously one of the other things you can check when you actually, you know, see these advertisements online. You can actually check if this person has done their qualifications. And obviously then again, there are fake qualifications out there that a lot of people will do. And like you said, again, when it comes to influencers, I feel that's one of the you know, it's a horrible way of doing it. But obviously you look up to these people and you think they're going to sell you these, you know, good products. But most of the time, it's, you know, it's not, it's something that maybe worked once for them, and then they're gonna, like, as I say, I think one of the best examples of this I've seen is the Muller adverts. And you have these athletes that are, you know, eating these Muller yogurts, and it sort of portrays this idea that, oh, you know, athletes eat these Muller yogurts, you know, to get fit and healthy. And I can tell you right now, I bet you none of them in their diets have Muller consistently in their diets. It's just not going to happen. And like, as I said, and that's how the advertisements work. They get paid so that, you know, well, they get the money and they advertise it, and they don't think any harm's done by it.
Yeah, definitely. These people, you know, they don't think that any harm comes by it, because they don't think about how it affects people on a very human level. I think, you know, to the people who are already very rich, or people who want their product to be bought, it's all about money, which is a very sad reality, I think. And even when I was first doing some research about this topic, it came to be very clear straight away that there is not a lot online about the effects of this type of advertising. When I type in effects of advertising on body image or eating disorders, it actually comes up with lots about obesity and the ban of advertising fast foods online, but there is nothing about preventing the promotion of other diets and other dangerous products, which can just be as equally as unhealthy. So I'm going to go ahead and ask Jack first. Can you think of any examples of products that could be dangerous to advertise to individuals with mental health problems?
Well, of course, like as many of you have said, like anything to do with diet or fitness, especially, as has been the theme prominently here, like especially with like anything gym related, which comes to mind, like weights, for instance, and diets, like, because especially with these advertisements, you don't know what is actually in the product half the time, especially if it's to do with diets, and they're kind of like offering this new kind of like protein bar or whatnot. Like, you don't know what other ingredients are in it until you perhaps like have the packet and you're able to kind of like read the ingredients. And even then, like, sometimes companies can lie about what they actually put in their products, so that can potentially be really dangerous. So yeah, it definitely affects mental health in that way, and anything to do with weights, because obviously if you don't know how to use weights, for one thing, you can actually cause some serious physical harm to yourself, like as well as mental, I guess, because obviously, like, mentally, I imagine if you ordered some weights and you didn't know how to use them, you're beating yourself up, and you might think, oh, how come I'm not developing these muscles like these athletes or influencers are? Well, in reality, it's just because like you haven't trained yourself either to kind of like build up to the weights that's good for you, or you haven't learned the technique that's relevant for kind of like using those weights, or that those weights might not be compatible with you. Like, I know that obviously, like, some people, especially like in the adverts, quite heavy weights are advertised, and those weights aren't suitable for everyone. And obviously, regardless, you'll probably have to start off quite small. Like, I mean, I know that I have, because over lockdown I did kind of like a little workout routine, and although like, I kind of wanted to start with like weights that was seen as kind of like weights that I interpreted as heavier, so just like 20 kilogram, like that was a bit much for me at the start, and I had to kind of like work up to that. So yeah, it can definitely be damaging to your mental health as well as your physical health, actually, when things are advertised incorrectly.
Yeah, definitely. I agree with you 100% there. I think, you know, on one hand, not all advertising of fitness and training stuff can be bad, but I think when directed at the wrong audience, and especially, you know, when using pictures of really fit men or really like muscly women on the packaging of these kind of weights and stuff, someone who, for example, is anorexic using these weights and they're thinking, oh, why don't I look like that? But it's not because there's any problem with the weight. It's because, you know, they've not got the nutrition to be able to build up muscle. And I think, you know, without warning people that, you know, there can be physical health problems using this, if you don't, you know, like exercise is you only build up muscle if you eat the right diet as well. And I don't think when you're anorexic or you have an eating disorder, you don't really think of that side of things. So Bri, can you think of anything?
Yeah, I was going to basically second everything that kind of Jack mentioned there, and what you expanded on. But I also just think anything kind of like beauty related in general. So like we mentioned earlier, like teeth whitening kits, or for example, lip fillers, or cheek fillers. I know lip fillers are really big at the minute. And no shade if anyone's got like lip fillers, like you do you, as long as it was an informed decision. But I think a lot of the advertisements of it make it seem like it's something that everyone's doing, and almost downplay the seriousness of it. Like, it is a cosmetic procedure. You are putting foreign stuff into your body. Like, it's not necessarily something that it should just be advertised alongside, a pair of boots or a t-shirt. Like, it's something a bit more drastic and needs more consideration when purchasing it. Or sometimes just even clothes, like advertising clothes, especially if it's like not a necessarily body positivity website or whatever. I know because obviously of my past with my eating issues, I make quite a conscious effort on my Instagram to follow body positivity people, or like fitness people who also incorporate body positivity into their fitness and things like that. So a lot of my Instagram itself comes up with things like that, but it's when I'm searching things maybe on my bad days, or searching things on other platforms that maybe link to my Instagram. So for example, searching health stuff on Google, or like I said about the New Look thing, looking on New Look. And sometimes when I'm not in the mood to be seeing really pretty, slim, nice bodies, that when I'm feeling rubbish, I don't want to see them. But sometimes if you go onto Instagram, the personalised ads will be of, Victoria's Secret models or something like that. And sometimes it can just be really damaging, even though there's no harm in it and they're not necessarily promoting something that's seen as health related. It can still have its impacts because of how it's put across and at what state of mind you're in when you're consuming it.
Definitely. I think I agree with, you choose when to search for these products, but you can't choose when they come up on your social media. And on a bad day, it can be so damaging. I agree completely. And cosmetic surgery is not something to be promoted. I think there's a lot of embedded sex appeal on cosmetic surgery. Like, they'll say, oh, well, you're not attractive if you don't have lip fillers. You won't look like this if you don't have jaw fillers. Whereas there's no promotion of kind of you're perfect the way you are. And that especially in the younger generations now growing up with social media, it can be so damaging. Archie, have you got anything to add?
Oh yeah, absolutely loads I could say. So I mean, like, bring. I mean, I could bring it back to the fitness side of it again, because obviously that's where I find that I'm a bit more expertise in that area. Like, one of the things that I've seen advertised is the Pentalon, which is basically a spinning bike that you can use at your house, and I think it costs around £200. Or it might be actually maybe even more than that. It might be 600 actually, but regardless, it's quite an expensive product, and they market it as a sort of like a best way to get into fitness, best way, this is what you need to, get, good, looking good, or it's a great way to train. And I'm looking at that and I'm just thinking, you don't need that at all to get, to get a good workout, but they sell it as if you need all this equipment and stuff to get a good workout, when in actual fact, you really don't need any of that. And that's why I do recommend that obviously people go to YouTube or go to your local gym, because usually those are the places that are going to tell you, give you the best advice. But I mean, regardless of like fitness, when it comes to diet, there's a, massive misconception, and that's a lot, and that is partly down due to advertisement, but also a bit of education as well, because I was kind of guilty of this myself, really, that you don't really get taught about nutrition or anything like that. So it's very easy to, look up these things and then get advertisement. It's funny enough, I don't get advertised anything on fitness now or nutrition. Even though I'm very much into my sport and staying healthy, I don't get advertised it, probably because I just don't look up that stuff anymore, and I feel comfortable in knowing what I know. But one of the things that I didn't realize, obviously, is, for example, is like, all these fast food adverts and stuff like that. Obviously, they portray meat as this, this food that you must eat, and it makes you big and strong. It's for men and stuff like that. It's for athletes. You need meat to grow and stuff like that. But obviously, they don't tell you also that meat's the leading cause of heart disease and cholesterol levels. Like, these are and blood pressure. They don't tell you these things on the packet. So obviously, and they don't want you. They don't want to tell you those things, because obviously that has repercussions for the whole supply and demand chain of where food comes from, and obviously people's jobs. But in a sense, like, these are the things that you're not being told when it comes to advertisement, and obviously that can be extremely damaging to people, because that's probably one of the reasons we have a leading cause of obesity in this country, is because of obviously a lot of misinformation and advertisement. And even one thing that I've realized, as well as talking to my parents about it, is GPs aren't even taught about nutrition. That's something they don't even get taught. So when somebody comes into a practice and may ask about these sort of things, they're not going to be possibly even given the right information there. So advertisement is such a dangerous thing, and especially when it comes to eating disorders and health and stuff like that, because everybody's looking to sell something. And unless you actually know yourself, you're probably going to get misled into buying something. And when it comes back to mental health, it's extremely damaging, because you could spend thousands on, like you said, all these operations. You could spend thousands on liposuction. You could spend thousands on maybe some online guide to train you or tell you about nutrition. I've seen it before. I've heard stories about people who've paid for online nutritionists who haven't got qualifications and stuff like that, and they recommend you eat this and stuff like that. And this can really be damaging to the mental health, because you don't see results you want, and people start questioning, well, what am I doing wrong?
100%. It's such a slippery slope, and the way that these ads reach people, it's so unethical. And like you said, there's not enough education about nutrition. Like, young children and young teenagers are so impressionable on social media. They're going to believe what they read, and adding morality to food, saying carbs equals bad, veg and fruit equals good, that can lead someone to be pressurized into doing, a smoothie diet where you only drink smoothies for a week. And they don't even know how unhealthy that is, that your body needs carbohydrates, your body needs protein to be able to function. Yet they just think, oh, veg and fruit equals good, therefore I'm so healthy, I'm going to lose weight. Whereas that's not the reality. And I think without the education about nutrition, like you said, Archie, there's always going to be a problem.
Well, just to say, like, when it comes to carbs and stuff like that, fruits and vegetables are actually the best. One of the best places, as well as protein. They're one of the best places to get, your carbs and protein from. And obviously, that's something that people don't get told as well. And it's always because the more you get educated, the more you realize how bad as a society we've got in terms of misleading the public and selling them these bad products, and you can see it already in this country with the fast food industry and McDonald's and KFC. It's advertised, all these things are advertised everywhere, and it's not surprising that as I say, I come back to it, that the obesity crisis in this country is quite a big thing now, and obviously we're looking to crack down on it. But that, I think, once again, it comes down to education. But I think one of the best examples of something that was obviously done was something like smoking, where on the packet it obviously shows you what this can cause. But obviously when it comes to online things, anything like Botox or anything like that, they don't tell you the side effects or the cons of using all these products, because that's not going to sell. When you're selling something, you want to just list the best parts of it. You don't want to you don't want to put in there what's bad about it. And that's obviously how you're going to sell something a lot better to somebody who may not know the full details of the product.
Definitely. And that applies to all these fitness apps, calorie counters, magic diet pills, calorie controlled foods as well. That's something that is so unhealthy. They're promoted as being, oh look, this is only 200 calories, but in that is processed foods. It's not nutritionally healthy for you. And anything that promotes an unrealistic body image, especially on social media, there is no ideal body type. There's no perfect body type, because it's always going to be unachievable. And I don't think nowadays that people don't realize that it is an unachievable goal. You're not going to get this perfect body if no matter how many pills you take, no matter how much cosmetic surgery you have or diet teas you drink. You are an individual, and it's your genetics and your lifestyle that makes you look how you are. No amount of calorie counters or diet pills is going to change that.
Oh no, yeah. So I just say, without a doubt, like that's the key part. There, it's like there is no shortcut. There is no magic pill, like you said. It's hard work, it's dedication, and it's just eating what is considered a healthy diet. Obviously, a well balanced diet, and obviously proportions and stuff like that. And as I say, like calorie, and I don't blame people, because it's hard. Like there is a lot of misinformation out there, and then if you combine that with the fact that of all the right information that you need to learn, and this, you want to be effective at getting to the point where you're happy, it's extremely a hard hill to climb. So I can understand why people might look at these shortcuts or look online and say, what is the fastest way to do this, or why am I not losing fat, or something like that. And I completely feel sorry for those people who are obviously being taken advantage of and and sort of manipulated into buying these products.
Definitely. And like you said, it's all for money, really. And I think on a human level, these corporations don't really care about the effects that this can have. And for someone who's had a very rocky relationship with food and exercise, I've searched about calories and diets in the past, and now just going onto Snapchat to message friend, and you get these adverts about electric tummy toners and all this kind of stuff comes up. It makes going on social media just to look at something quickly actually quite a triggering experience. And products promoting thinness, popularity, sexiness, beauty, and attraction often leave people believing that they're missing something and that they're not good enough. And having constant reminders that you're not perfect can be really hard, because while this is acceptable to some people who might not have mental health problems, to someone who's got low self-esteem, this can be really damaging on top of everything that they've already gone through. So Jack, what do you think the short-term effects that this can have on people's mental health?
The short-term effects, did you say?
Yeah.
Short-term effects, it could definitely, obviously, bring about a low mood, like increase anxiety, depression. Like I know in my case, it could definitely kind of like heighten my insecurities, like especially kind of like remembering back in the day with the teeth whitening products, like seeing that definitely heightened my insecurity at the time, and kind of like, because I'd say that it didn't help me, especially not only because of my kind of like low esteem at the time, but also because of my kind of like personality type of being a perfectionist. And it was kind of like a problem that I saw that I had to fix, and because I wanted to be the best version of myself, and kind of like it kind of like played to that as well. So I think that adverts like this actually, in a way, sometimes they might even intend to use that demographic and target those kind of people that say have that kind of personality type, and kind of when they see a problem that they have to kind of like hone on it and fix it. So yeah, it definitely had some short-term effects on my mental health by making me feel more depressed, more anxious, and even kind of like making me more of a perfectionist than I was before.
That must have been so hard. And I can't imagine how, on top of being a perfectionist, to, kind of have your flaws identified in such a personal way on your social media, having to see that every day, that must have been so hard. Bri, have you got
Definitely.
any thoughts?
I mean, kind of probably everything that I've already said. Obviously, if you are somebody who's had that sort of, like you say, rocky relationship with sort of food and exercise, and you're finally at a point where majority of the days are okay, and you just have the odd down day, but usually, touch wood, I never spiral quite back into what it was. It was just a lot more. I just need to reassure my head and work on what's going on in my head a lot more. That those sort of personalized ads and everything that I'm consuming on those down days, or even on some of the good days, can really just set you back a couple of steps every now and then. And it can just, yeah, it can just really have a negative effect, or even just a negative effect even if you don't realize it. So sometimes I'll be like looking at stuff and then I'll start feeling a bit down, and then I realize it's because I've looked at other people for too long, and I'm like subconsciously resorting back to, because that's what I used to do. I used to just sit and scroll, and like when I was in my bad place with food and stuff, I used to just sit and scroll through, you know, other people, and compare myself. And like sometimes you find yourself subconsciously doing that, or adverts will trigger you to subconsciously do that, and then yeah, it can just set you back a few pegs, which is obviously not ideal. So I'd say yeah, that's what it can really trigger, I think, people.
Yeah, definitely. And I think, like you said, I don't think some people even realize that it's happened. You don't realize that you've seen something and it's actually subconsciously been quite triggering. And identifying that that's happened can be really hard for some people. Archie, can you think of any short-term effects?
Well, I think a lot of, I think actually some of the advertisements you see, and I just want to say I find it interesting that obviously a lot of what we're talking about here comes back to obviously fitness, health, and nutrition. As in all, and beauty. It doesn't seem to come around any other products, and I think that's because these products actually are things that maybe we're not educated about very well, and obviously we find these quite personal to us, and as I say, like when it comes back to like short-term effects, I mean, it can be extremely devastating. Like when you first learn and or see advertisements of beautiful people, and then you look at yourself in the mirror, that can cause anxiety, it can cause depression, it could cause you to have an eating disorder, it could cause you to have, become bulimic, you might start throwing up and stuff like that. I mean, so there are many effects that can come off off just the short term of advertisement. I mean, for me personally, when I was younger, I mean, when I was younger, I was always quite a big person. I weighed around 110 kg, and I found, like, I didn't really think about it. That's the thing. I know it never sort of like, I didn't really ever look at myself like that. I just saw myself as just a normal person. But obviously when you start seeing advertisements and you start hearing from other people and stuff like that, you start thinking, oh, maybe I'm quite big. And obviously one of the ways I actually dealt with like the anxiety and maybe a bit of depression as well is actually just, instead of just searching online and stuff like that, actually going to like a gym and actually getting a someone like a personal trainer to actually explain these sort of things. And I think when it comes to the stigma around personal trainers, obviously a lot of people may think that, they just train you like for an hour and stuff like that, but really it's nothing like that. You could spend a whole hour having a conversation about them. And this is one of the things I did. I literally asked all the questions about like all the different diets and stuff like that, and all, but people say this online and people say that online, and it was a very great way for me to sort of actually get out of the short and also a bit of the long-term effects I've had from the advertisement, and actually help me sort of realize actually, and cut through the sort of stuff that's sort of been damaging my mental health.
Yeah, definitely. It's really clear that education is a massive problem, and I think distinguishing the difference between false information and stuff that's true on social media when it comes down to fitness and health and calories, it's very hard because there is so much false information out there. Like you said, people will say anything to get their product to sell, and people do anything to get followers and likes and all that kind of thing. It doesn't really matter if the information is true or not, which again makes it so hard. Especially given a false portrayal of how damaging weight loss can be for some people. Some people it can be good, especially with the obesity problem at the moment. It's not all bad, but for some people who it has been really damaging in the past, and they are susceptible to problems with exercise and food, it can be so damaging to give this unrealistic body expectation to hundreds and thousands of girls and boys across all platforms, and it's so misleading and unethical. So one of the diets that I wanted to highlight that I had a bit of an issue with, that I saw on social media, and it said, this is going to be so good, it'll help you lose loads of weight, and it's fasting. And I've seen it promoted on social media across, fitness websites. And it involves, not eating at all, or only drinking special drinks or smoothies for days. And when you're not eating, I know now, because I'm more educated on it, that you cannot just not eat for days. It causes digestive problems, fainting, fitting, extreme exhaustion, and long-term health conditions as well, like anemia, low bone density, poor circulation, and even infertility. These kind of diets, and especially stuff like waist trainers as well, which can damage the development of organs in the rib cage in young people, they are mindlessly advertised like there is no effect of this. And I think, it is all for money, like we've said. But Jack, what do you think the long-term health conditions could be on mental health?
Yeah, I think it could definitely also have a long-term effect. For me, at least, I think it's important on this subject, especially, to not be too generic, because I believe that it can definitely affect people differently, definitely depending on what your personality is. But I definitely say that kind of like the perfectionism definitely stayed with me, and it possibly made it worse than it was before. And that definitely continued kind of like as to who I am now. Like, I definitely say that I'm definitely a perfectionist, and I like to kind of like always kind of like work on myself and like improve myself. And that mindset is probably most definitely actually a product of, or at least partially a product of, this niche advertising, which is kind of like targeted not only our interests but also our insecurities, without kind of like them knowing about that, or even they might even be aware of that. As I said before, like they might be aware of kind of like our demographic, like they might be targeting this kind of demographic for their products so they sell more. Again, as Archie mentioned before, like they like to market kind of like the best parts of their product, and the reality is they have little concern for kind of like what the side effects can be and what kind of like the negatives and drawbacks can be. So yeah, I think a potential long-term side effect of many of these health and beauty and fitness products, cosmetic products, it can definitely be like a higher sense of perfectionism, and perhaps even kind of like a lingering anxiety, perhaps in my case, I'd say.
Yeah, really well said, Jack. I completely agree. I think perfection is such a hard thing to maintain as well. You know, it's so exhausting on your mind to try and constantly achieve all of these expectations that are set out by social media. So well done for, you know, being who you are today. You know, it's amazing. Bri, any long-term effects that you can think of that, you know, you've experienced? Or
Yeah, I think just linking to Jack, and I guess this kind of links to my own experiences as well, but just like a constant sense of almost like dissatisfaction, and always feeling like you know, enough is never enough, and never just being content with what you've got, especially because these personalized ads are always trying to sell you something. So it's always that there's something that you're missing, or something that, you know, you're not enough, or something that you need to be better. And it's just that constant state of never being happy with what you've got, and never taking that time to just kind of sit back and be like, I am healthy, you know, relatively healthy. My body will take me to do these amazing things. You know, I've been to several different countries, I've climbed up hills, I've done big walks, I've, you know, get to hug my, I mean, obviously not at the minute, but these amazing arms, even if I think sometimes that they're ugly, like allow me to hug my family. And like, never we get caught in this cycle of like social media and advertising and stuff, that we always need more, and there's always something more. And I think we can, a lot of us can just kind of get caught in that state of never feeling content with what we've got, or never recognizing what we've got. So I guess that's what I'd say.
yeah, you've completely hit the nail on the head there, Bri. Like, I completely agree with you. I think, you know, the way that body types and fitness and fashion come in and out of trends as the years go on, it can leave you with this complete sense of that you're not enough, and, you know, you're not going to fit in with the next trend, or, you know, I completely agree. Anything from you, Arch?
Yeah, well, I actually wanted to just talk a little bit about the fasting quickly, because I found, you know, obviously that's one of the things that I've personally done at some point when I was younger, and once again, it comes to obviously not being educated enough on it. But obviously, what I've learned now is the reason why fasting is a very dangerous way to go is because essentially, even if you don't eat anything for a day, your body is still functioning. You know, you're still breathing, your heart is still beating, and all of that will be using up calories in your body. So obviously, you know, even if you lay in bed and didn't eat anything and didn't move, you're still going to be burning 1,000 calories. So obviously, once your body realizes that it's hungry and you're not feeding it, then the body starts to realize that it goes into sort of a starvation mode, where it starts to try and store, keep as much energy in your body as possible. And obviously, where's the most amount of energy in your body? It's your fat. So what the body will do is it will try and use up other sources of energy before going to the fat storage. That's why when you fast, you know, it's one of the baddest things, because your muscle will be one of the first things to start being used to basically consume energy. So your muscles will start to get smaller, and then eventually, then it will get to the fat storage. But obviously that's a terrible idea, and obviously once again you're missing out on all the nutrition, your vitamins, your fiber, and all those sort of things. But going back to the point about what you were saying about the long-term effects, it can be absolutely devastating if you've had if from advertisements or social media, if you've had a bad experience or some sort of thing, something that's happened in your life that's caused you to have an eating disorder, or once again, I'll bring it back to like being bulimic. Later in life, that can come back and actually sort of be a reoccurring thing for you. Like, you know, you can my brother, for example, is one of the people that I know that's had this sort of problem. Is that when he was younger, he was I think he's been a bit body self-conscious, and he's been bulimic because of it. And even though it's been so many years later, he's still bulimic to this day because of, like, obviously maybe being a bit body conscious in that sort of sense.
Yeah, definitely. And, you know, the physical health problems that can have on you even years later, even when you've recovered from these kind of eating disorders, you know, they stay with you sometimes for the rest of your life. And, you know, that can be so hard for, you know, the individual. Just moving on to the end of the podcast, we're just going to talk about, you know, some of our advice that we'd give to our listeners about, you know, what we personally can do to reduce the effects of advertising, and also talk about some of the positives of social media, because, you know, it's not all doom and gloom. You know, there are some benefits that we can get from this, although, you know, we've obviously talked about the negatives. So my advice to anyone would definitely just to turn off personalized ad settings where you can, and to turn off notifications on your phone as well, so you're not constantly being distracted by, you know, things popping up, and because I think that can lead you to spend more time on social media anyway. And, you know, the more time you spend on social media, the more ads you're consuming. So obviously, you know, to get rid of the problem completely would be to say, don't go on social media at all. But in today's day and age, it's not possible. You know, you know, everyone uses social media. So just cutting down on the amount of time that you spend on your phone is going to be really beneficial to mental health. Jack, is there any advice that you'd give?
I must agree with all those points that you just said, especially kind of like reducing screen time in general, because I think a lot of these ads come up like during what you call kind of like passive social media use, when you're just kind of like scrolling mindlessly through your feed, as opposed to active social media use when you're kind of like networking with your friends. So I think definitely cut down, especially on that passive social media use, and try to be mindful of when you're just kind of like scrolling and when you have nothing to do. I kind of think like, is there anything else I can kind of do in this time? Because you don't have to kind of like be wasting, say, 3 hours scrolling down your Instagram feed or whatnot, when you could be kind of like doing something that could make you probably even more happy than you would be if you were just scrolling through your Instagram. So yeah, definitely be mindful of kind of like your social media activity. Maybe even allocate a part of the day when you do feel you kind of want to like scroll like kind of like mindlessly through your social media, because obviously it is a big part of it, but just kind of like be mindful when you're doing it. That's kind of like the top tip that I would give there.
Yeah, definitely. I think awareness of your own time is really, really helpful. And I think, like you said, using the time that you would be on social media to spend it doing something that makes you happy. And that could be any type of self-care, you know, going on a walk or having a bath, stuff that are making you feel more in touch with the world. Right? Any advice from you?
Yeah, I'd say two things. So again, linking kind of what to Jack said about like being mindful and like really paying attention to what you are clicking on, because I know sometimes we just, especially with clickbait, or I'm just like get a bit click happy. I'm like, oh, that looks interesting, and then I don't actually realize that I'm clicking on stuff that is going to make me see more of that. So yeah, being mindful of what we are looking at, I guess. But also kind of what I said before, taking a moment to kind of take a step back and realize what we do have, and realize that we don't need all these crazy new things to be happy. Like, we don't need to have the latest iPhone or the latest bag or this. We don't need to be 2 stone lighter to be healthier. Do you know? Like, it's just taking a step back and appreciating what we have, and not thinking that there always has to be something more. And realizing that a lot of those pressures come from external things, and they're not actually things that we want to do to make us happy. We're just doing it because we think we should.
Yeah, 100% agree with you. Any advice, Archie?
Yeah, so obviously, obviously the first one, like a lot of you guys have mentioned, obviously ad block, a terrific idea. I mean, that's going to obviously cut down the amount of, it's not going to get rid of all your ads, but it will cut down a significant amount of the ads that you will be seeing. And I think that helps, because then you're not bombarded on every page or whatever you're looking at, with 10 different ads on a page. And I think that can be a lot easier than deciphering what actually is an ad, and what actually you want to see and stuff like that. But I think when it comes, I'm just going to obviously mention this in terms of the fitness side, and obviously the health and stuff like that, and nutrition. I think when it comes to that sort of thing, if you're worried about that, the internet, obviously there are studies and stuff like that which will be there, but those aren't the things that are going to be coming up when you search, or when you need the help. The best advice I can say on that regard is actually going to your local fitness center or gym and actually getting some advice from somebody there, because those are the people that aren't going to really be trying to screw you over for money. There's somebody who you can talk to, and people will probably refer to them and actually reference them as actually somebody who's trustworthy. So that's one of the things I would recommend. But coming back to obviously the advertisement side of it, ad blocker, very important. And I think I wouldn't say that you need to cut down the time that you're being online, because I think being online can be helpful. It can obviously let us connect with other people, and like I say, the positives of advertisement can be sometimes very good. It can actually show you products that you actually didn't know existed. Once again, like Bryce said, helping out small businesses. But I think obviously just being mindful and reflecting, obviously, on what you see in that sense.
Yeah, agree with everything you've got to say there. And like I said before, it's not social media and advertising. Like you said, it's not all bad. I think there are some really good products out there. When you look into them, I think just research into products before you buy them. And if you looking at a particular diet, definitely do research on, if it works, how healthy it is for you and your body, and, whether what you're reading is true or not. So yeah. So the last thing I've kind of got to say is, if anyone is interested in kind of what we've been talking about today, I would definitely recommend watching The Social Dilemma on Netflix. It's kind of an hour and a half documentary about social media and how advertising works. And I thought it was so interesting. So yeah, there's lots of information just following up what we talked about today. And if anyone has been affected by the topic of today's podcast, please contact Mind. There's some really good tools on their website that people can use to, if they've had any issues, especially with eating disorders, body dysmorphia, low self-esteem, or depression and anxiety. So that's it for today's podcast. If you liked today's podcast and wanted to know more, please feel free to contact the advisors. Got all our social media. Our website is www.associatedevelopmentsolutions.com/the Midlands Young Advisors. So yeah, thanks to everyone for participating.
Bye.
Thank you. Bye.
Thank you very much.